The cold night. The night was falling over the alien village. The sky was dark, the air was heavy, and the wind carried sharp pieces of ice. The huts of the villagers were weak, made from dry grass and broken wood. Inside, families tried to stay close, their bodies shaking in the cruel cold. The queen of the village stood outside her hut, her eyes full of fear. She was not only a ruler, she was also a mother. Her daughter, young and beautiful, sat near the fire, but the fire was too small. It gave no real warmth, only a weak glow. The queen looked up at the black sky, her heart full of worry. She knew the long night was only beginning. Many of her people would not survive until morning. The cold was a killer, a silent enemy. The queen's thoughts became darker. She remembered an old tradition. In times of great danger, the queen must sacrifice. She must offer her daughter to save her people. This was the way of her ancestors. But tonight she felt no hope even in tradition. Then something strange happened. A tall shadow appeared at the edge of the village. The villagers whispered, afraid. They thought it was a ghost or a monster from the mountains. But it was not. It was a human. The human walked slowly into the village. He wore clothes the villagers had never seen. Thick and strong against the cold, his steps were heavy, his face calm, his eyes full of fire. He carried a bag on his back, nobody knew what was inside. The queen felt both fear and curiosity. She stepped forward and raised her voice. "Who are you, stranger? And why have you come to our village on this deadly night?" Her voice shook, but her eyes stayed strong. The human stopped and looked around. He saw the weak huts, the shivering children, the hopeless faces. He said nothing for a moment, only listened to the sound of the cold wind. Then he spoke in a calm and deep voice. "I am a traveler. I saw your fires from far away. I came to see if help is needed." The villagers gasped. Help? From a stranger? From a human? They had heard stories of humans. Stories of clever minds and dangerous hearts. Some said humans were kind. Others said humans were hunters who never showed mercy. The queen felt her heart beating fast. She looked at her daughter. Then back at the human, her decision was clear. She stepped forward and bowed her head. "Traveler," she said, "I have nothing to give my people. They will die tonight, but if you take my daughter, if you spend one night with her, perhaps you will give us warmth. Perhaps you will save us." The words shocked the villagers. Her daughter's eyes opened wide, her lips trembling, but the queen did not look at her child. Her duty was greater than her love. The human listened carefully, his face unreadable. Then slowly he shook his head, his voice was firm, almost sharp. "No, I will not take your daughter. I will not buy warmth with flesh. I am human." The villagers were frozen in silence. Nobody had ever refused the queen's offer before. The queen herself was stunned. She had offered the greatest sacrifice, yet the human said no. The human dropped his bag on the ground. He opened it and pulled out thick blankets. He spread them across the cold bodies of children. He gave food wrapped in strange, shining packs. He moved without asking permission, as if his only purpose was to fight the cold itself. The villagers stared with wide eyes. The queen's daughter whispered, "Mother, why does he help us if he wants nothing?" The queen had no answer. The human looked up, his eyes burning in the firelight. He said only one line, "Because I am human." And in that moment, the village changed forever. The human's choice. The night grew colder, but inside the village there was new life. Children wrapped in thick blankets smiled for the first time. The weak fire burned brighter because the human gave them strange fuel. It was small and hard, yet when touched by fire, it burned strong and long. The villagers stared at the flames with wonder. They whispered among themselves, their voices full of fear and curiosity. The queen stood still, her heart fighting inside her chest. She had offered her daughter in exchange for survival. But the human had refused, something no one had ever done. Her pride was wounded, but also her mind was open. Why did this human act against all tradition? The daughter, wrapped in a blanket, watched him closely. Her eyes followed every move, every breath, every small detail. The human worked quietly, as if he carried no fear. He gave food, strange packs that opened with a soft tear. Inside were warm bread, sweet bars, and dried meat. The villagers tasted them with shaking hands. Never had they eaten such food. It filled their stomachs and gave heat to their veins. The queen finally stepped forward, her voice heavy with doubt. "Stranger, why do you do this? My people are nothing to you. My offer was clear, yet you refused. Tell me the truth. What do you want in return? The human raised his eyes. They were sharp like blades, but there was no greed. No hunger for power in them, he answered in simple words. I want nothing. I want you to live. I want you to see tomorrow. That is enough. The villagers gasped again. Their hearts did not understand such kindness. In their world, nothing came without a price. But here was a human giving everything and asking for nothing. To them, it was more frightening than any weapon. The daughter's heart beat fast. She whispered softly, Is this the power of humans? To give when others take? To stand alone when others bow? The human did not answer. He only looked at the weak fire and fed it again. Outside the hut, snow fell harder. The night was thick. The wind screamed across the land. But inside the village, there was a strange warmth. The human sat near the fire, his back straight, his eyes never closing. He did not sleep, he did not rest. It was as if he was waiting for something dangerous, the queen noticed. Her fear grew again. She asked, Do you sense something out there? The human replied calmly, Yes. The cold is not your only enemy tonight. Others have seen your light. They are coming. The villagers trembled. Raiders. They knew the word well. Hungry bands of killers lived in the mountains. They came down when villages were weak. They stole, they burned, they killed, and now they were coming. The queen's face turned pale. Her people were too weak to fight. The guards had no strength. Their spears were dull. She looked at the human, the only figure standing strong. Her lips moved, but no words came. Would he leave? Or would he protect them? The human finally stood. He pulled a strange object from his bag. Long and dark, it did not look like a sword, nor like a spear. The villagers did not understand. But when the human held it, even the fire seemed to fear it. The daughter whispered to her mother, Mother, this is not just a man. This is something else. He is not here by chance. He is here for a reason. The queen could not deny her words. She watched the human, and for the first time in her life, she felt both fear and hope at the same time. The human turned his eyes to the door of the hut. His voice was low, steady, like a promise. They will come soon, but do not fear tonight. I will show you why humans are different. And in the silence before the storm, the villagers held their breath, for they knew when the raiders arrived, the fate of the village would change forever. Whispers of power. The village was quiet, but it was not peace. Every ear was waiting for the sound of danger. The fire burned, but its light seemed small compared to the darkness outside. The human stood tall near the door, his strange weapon resting in his hands. The villagers watched him with wide eyes, whispering behind their hands. They spoke in fear. He is only one man. How can he stop raiders? Others answered, He is not like us. He is human. Humans are full of secrets. The whispers grew like smoke in the air. Some believed he was a savior. Others feared he was a curse. The queen sat near her daughter, her mind heavy. She looked at the human again and again. His body was calm, his breath steady, his eyes sharp like a wolf. He looked as if he had fought 1,000 nights like this. She asked herself, what kind of being is he? To refuse gifts, to give food, to stand without fear? The daughter leaned closer, her voice soft and curious. Mother, maybe he is more than a man. Maybe he carries the power of the stars. His eyes burn like fire. Yet his hands heal the cold. The queen did not answer, for her own heart whispered the same thought. Outside, the snowstorm grew stronger, but the sound of footsteps cut through the wind, heavy, rough, and cruel. The raiders had arrived. The villagers froze, their whispers turning to silent prayers. The human did not move. He simply listened, counting the steps. His lips moved quietly, but the villagers could not hear his words. Some said he was speaking to the wind. Others thought he was calling to unseen allies. The first shout of the raiders came echoing through the night. It was followed by laughter, loud and sharp like knives. The villagers shook in terror, but the human only smiled, a small, dangerous smile. The queen rose and cried out, Stranger, you do not know these enemies. They kill without mercy, they burn without reason. You cannot fight them alone. Leave now while you still can. But the human shook his head slowly. His answer was simple. I came to help, not to run, and I will not leave you to die. The whispers of the villagers grew louder. He is mad, he will die with us. No, he is human, and humans never die so easily. Fear and hope twisted together like a rope in their voices. The daughter's eyes never left the human, she whispered to herself. He carries no fear, not even a drop. He walks like a storm. Not a man. Her heart beat faster. Pulled by something she did not yet understand, suddenly, the raiders' torches lit the edge of the village. The light burned in the snow, their shadows tall and hungry. The human stepped outside into the freezing wind. He raised his strange weapon, its shape glowing faintly. The villagers gasped, their whispers turning into silence. The queen grabbed her daughter's hand. Her heart screamed in fear, yet her eyes could not look away. She whispered, "If he survives this night, nothing will be the same for us or for him." The villagers leaned closer to the fire. Every whisper now carried the same word. Human. Human, human. The night held its breath. The raiders roared, and the human, alone against many, stood ready to show what it truly meant to be human. The daughter's curiosity. The battle outside ended faster than the villagers could believe. They had expected screams, fire, and blood, but instead, they heard only short bursts of sound, sharp and powerful, then silence returned, heavier than before. When the human stepped back into the hut, the snow clung to his clothes, but no blood stained his skin. The villagers stared at him with open mouths. The raiders, their greatest fear, had fallen in moments. The queen's heart trembled, she whispered. What kind of being can fight like that? No one answered because no one knew. The daughter's eyes never left the human. She had seen him refuse her mother's offer. She had seen him give food freely, and now she had seen him defeat death itself. Her chest felt strange, heavy yet light. Curiosity burned inside her like fire. She wanted to understand him not as a warrior but as a soul. When the others finally slept, too tired from fear, she stayed awake. The human sat near the fire, silent as stone. His eyes watched the flames, but his mind seemed far away. The daughter slowly walked to him, her blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders. She sat down, leaving a small space between them. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, in a soft voice, she asked, "Why did you refuse my mother's offer? You could have taken me and no one would have stopped you, yet you gave us life instead. Why?" The human did not turn to her at once. He let the fire crackle. The sparks rise and the silence grow. Finally he spoke, his voice calm but firm. "Because I am human, and humans do not take life to give life. We protect, we endure, we carry the burden so others may breathe." The daughter blinked. His words were simple but heavy, she whispered. Protect, endure, burden. These are not words of power, yet they feel like power itself. The human gave a faint smile, one that vanished quickly. "Power is not in taking. It is in choosing not to take," he said. Her heart beat faster. She wanted to know more. "What is your world like?" She asked. "Where do you come from?" The human's eyes darkened. "I come from far away, a place beyond the stars. A place where cold nights are nothing, where storms test us, where danger shapes us. We learn to fight not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot fight." The daughter felt her chest tighten. She whispered, "That is why you helped us. That is why you stood against the raiders, not for reward, but because it is your way." The human nodded slowly. Yes, it is the human way. Her eyes filled with wonder. In her world, kindness was weakness. Sacrifice was rare. Survival meant trade and loss. But here sat a being who gave without asking, who fought without taking. To her it felt like a miracle. The queen watched from the shadows, her eyes hidden but awake. She heard every word. Her heart felt torn. Part of her feared this human. Part of her wanted to believe in him. But she could not ignore the pull in her daughter's eyes. The silent thread connecting her child to the stranger. The night stretched on. The fire burned low. The human did not rest. The daughter leaned closer, her curiosity stronger than her fear. "Will you leave us when the sun rises?" she asked almost in a whisper. The human looked at the door, then at her. "I do not know," he said, "but remember this, even if I leave, humans always return." Her heart shook with those words. She did not know if it was hope or danger, but she knew one thing: her life and her world would never be the same again. Enemies in the dark, the night was not over, though the raiders had fallen. The villagers thought safety had returned, but the human did not relax. He stood outside in the snow, his weapon resting against his chest. His eyes searched the darkness, as if he was waiting for something worse. The queen stepped beside him, her cloak heavy with frost. She whispered, "The raiders are gone. Why do you still watch the shadows?" The human answered without looking at her, Because enemies travel in silence too, not only with shouts and fire. There are eyes on us even now. Her heart sank. If the raiders were not the true threat, then what was? She looked back at her sleeping people. Their bodies wrapped in blankets he had given. For the first time in many winters they had warmth. But warmth could also draw hunters. Like blood draws wolves deep in the mountains. Hidden eyes watched the human, not raiders. But scouts from another tribe, stronger and crueler, they had seen the human's strange power. They whispered to each other, "He carries weapons from the stars, he must be captured." His secrets taken in the village, whispers also spread. The people could not stop talking about the human. Some called him savior, others called him danger. One man muttered, "If he has such power, why would he waste it on us? Surely he hides a reason." Another replied, "Do not trust a being who gives freely, for nothing is ever free." The daughter heard these whispers. They filled her chest with confusion. She wanted to believe in the human. Her heart told her to trust. But her ears filled with doubt. She looked at him, standing tall against the storm, and asked softly, "Why do they fear you when you saved them?" The human's voice was calm but heavy. "Because fear comes before trust, they cannot understand why I give without taking. So they think I hide a darker truth. That is the way of those who have always lived in chains." Her eyes softened. "You do not speak like us, you do not act like us. You are different." The human turned toward her for the first time that night. "Yes, I am different, I am human, and being human means carrying fire in the dark, even when the world spits on your light." Her breath caught at his words. Something inside her shifted. It was not love, not yet, but it was a spark of something that could grow. Suddenly a cry came from the edge of the village. One of the guards stumbled into the snow. His face pale, he gasped, "More are coming. Not raiders, but hunters, stronger, faster. They wait in the dark, watching us." The villagers panicked, fear spilling into the air like smoke. The queen's eyes turned to the human. Her voice shook. "Can you protect us again? Or is this the night we finally fall?" The human looked at her, his face unreadable. "I can fight them. But survival is not only about fighting, it is about choices. It is about courage." The daughter stepped forward, her voice clear. "Then we must choose to stand with him. Not hide, not trade, not beg, but stand." Her words silenced the crowd. They had never heard such strength from her before. The human gave a small nod. "Courage begins with one voice. And courage spreads faster than fear," he said. The villagers looked at each other, their fear still heavy, but their hearts pulled toward the fire of his words. The night was not finished. The true enemies were still waiting in the dark. But something inside the village had changed for the first time. They felt the spark of human spirit inside themselves, and in that moment, the shadows around the village seemed to grow deeper. The real battle had not yet begun. The first battle. The hunters came with the storm. Their shapes moved through the snow like shadows with teeth. They carried long claws, sharp blades made from bone and stone. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, filled with hunger and cruelty. The villagers hid behind weak walls. Mothers held children close. Men clutched their dull spears, but deep inside, they knew their weapons were nothing against such monsters. Only one figure stood between them and death. The human. He stepped into the snow, his strange weapon glowing faintly. The queen whispered from the doorway, "You cannot face them all. They are too many." The human did not turn. His voice was calm like steel. "One human is enough." The hunters laughed when they saw him standing alone. Their leader shouted, "This one carries the fire of the stars. Capture him, take his secrets, burn the rest." They charged forward, their claws flashing, their war cries shaking the night. The human raised his weapon. The sound it made was not of this world. Sharp bursts of thunder cracked through the air. Flashes of light cut across the snow. One by one, the hunters fell, their cries swallowed by the storm. The villagers gasped. They had never seen such power. The human moved like a shadow but struck like lightning. Every step was sure, every strike was final. No wasted motion, no fear, only precision. The daughter watched with wide eyes. Her heart racing, she whispered, "He fights not like a man, but like a storm given shape." Her mother held her arm, but her own lips trembled with awe. She had seen warriors, she had seen battles, but never had she seen one soul stand against many and bend the night itself. The hunters tried to surround him. They came from both sides, their blades flashing. But the human moved faster. He struck the ground with a small object, and light burst upward like fire. The hunters screamed, blinded in the chaos. His weapon spoke again, thunder after thunder, and the snow drank their shadows. The queen could not believe her eyes. How can one being carry such power? He fights as if death does not exist for him, she whispered. An elder of the village answered in a shaking voice, "He is human, and perhaps humans are born with war in their blood." But the daughter shook her head. "No, look at him. He does not fight for himself. He does not fight for victory. He fights so that we can breathe one more day." The last hunter fell with a broken cry. The snow turned quiet again, the storm hiding all traces of blood. The human stood still, his breath heavy, his weapon glowing faintly in the firelight. He looked at the villagers, their faces pale, their eyes wide with both fear and respect. He spoke softly, but his words cut through the silence. "This is not victory, this is survival, and survival is only the beginning." The villagers bowed their heads, some in gratitude, others in fear, for they now knew the truth. This stranger was not only stronger than them, he was something more, something beyond. The daughter stepped forward, her heart too heavy to stay still. She looked into his eyes and whispered, "Why do you fight for us? You could have walked away, yet you stood. Why?" The human's face softened for a moment. "Because I am human, and humans do not abandon those who have no strength to fight." Her eyes filled with tears, not of sorrow, but of something she could not name. Hope, awe, and fear twisted together inside her chest. The queen watched her child's face and felt a storm rising in her heart. This night had saved her people, but it had also changed her daughter forever. The wind grew quiet, the fire burned low, but the story of this night was only beginning, for enemies had fallen, yet greater forces were already watching from far away. The daughter's awakening, the night of blood and snow, had ended. The hunters were gone, their bodies buried under white silence. The villagers gathered at dawn, their eyes still wide with fear and wonder. They whispered about the human, his power, his fire, his thunder. Some called him savior. Others still feared he was a curse. The queen tried to calm her people, but her own heart was restless. She could not deny the truth. The human had saved them all. Yet she also could not escape the thought, what price will come for such power? Her daughter, however, felt something different. She had seen his courage, his mercy, his strength. But more than that, she had seen his eyes. Eyes that burned with fire but softened with kindness. Her heart now carried a spark that refused to fade. While the village returned to broken routines, she sought him out. The human stood alone on the hill above the huts. He looked at the horizon, where the snow met the rising sun. His breath turned to mist, but he did not shiver. It was as if the cold itself had no hold on him. The daughter approached, her steps careful. She stopped beside him, her voice quiet. "You do not sleep. You do not rest. Why?" The human answered without moving his eyes. "Rest is for those who are safe. I have walked too many roads where safety never came. My eyes stay open, because danger never sleeps." Her heart ached at his words. She whispered, "You carry so much, yet you give so freely. Why does your kind choose such pain?" Finally, he looked at her, his gaze steady and sharp. "Because we are human, and to be human is to endure pain so others may know hope." Her breath caught. She turned her face away, but her heart beat faster. Hope. That was the gift he brought, not weapons, not food, but hope itself. Something her people had forgotten long ago. Day by day she watched him. She saw how he repaired huts with strong hands, how he lifted heavy logs as if they were nothing, how he taught the children small tricks to keep warm. She saw not only his strength, but his quiet care. And inside her chest, curiosity grew into something larger. At night, when the fire burned low, she dared to sit beside him. She asked him questions about the stars, about his world, about the meaning of his words. Sometimes he answered, sometimes he stayed silent. But even in silence, she felt closer to him. The queen noticed the change in her daughter. She saw her child's eyes following the human. She heard her voice soften when she spoke to him. Fear gripped her heart, for she knew the danger of trusting what could not be understood. One evening, when the sky turned red with sunset, the queen warned her, "Do not give your heart to the stranger. He is not of our world, his path is not ours." But the daughter lowered her eyes and whispered, "Perhaps his path is the one that will save us all." The queen fell silent, unable to answer, for in her own heart, she too felt the pull of his presence, but she was a leader, and leaders could not surrender to hope so easily. The human standing apart seemed unaware of the storm he had awakened. Or perhaps he knew and carried it quietly. He looked at the stars that began to shine, and in his eyes there was both longing and warning. The daughter saw that look and felt her heart awaken fully. Not with love alone, but with a fire that matched his. She whispered to herself, "If this is what it means to walk beside a human, then I will not fear the path." The Queen's decision. The Queen walked alone through the village. The dawn light touched the roofs of the huts. But her heart was heavy. Her people were alive. Yet fear clung to them like smoke. They looked at the human with wide eyes, half in awe and half in terror, and she, their leader, did not know which feeling to follow. She remembered the night she had offered her daughter, a desperate act, a mother's sacrifice, a queen's duty the human had refused. And instead, he had saved them all, yet the weight of that choice still pressed on her chest. If this being carried such power, what would he demand tomorrow? The Queen gathered the elders around the fire, their voices cracked with doubt. One elder spoke, "This human is not like us. He carries weapons of thunder, he fights like the storm. Can such a being ever walk beside us without danger?" Another replied, "He gave blankets, he gave food, he gave protection. Would a curse give gifts?" But the first elder shook his head. "Even the sweetest fruit can hide poison inside." The Queen listened in silence, her mind torn. Her duty was to protect her people, but her heart whispered another truth: without the human, they would already be ashes in the snow later. She found her daughter sitting with him, the girl's eyes bright, her voice soft with questions. They spoke of stars, of distant worlds, of battles fought far away. The Queen's breath caught. Her daughter was not afraid, not even cautious. She was drawn to him, as if her soul had found a hidden flame. Fear rose in the Queen's chest. She pulled her daughter aside and said, "You are letting him into your heart. Do you not see the danger? He is not one of us. His path is different. If you follow him, you may never return." But the daughter's answer was calm. "Mother, perhaps it is not danger. Perhaps it is destiny. What if he is not here to take from us, but to show us another way?" The Queen fell silent. Her daughter's words struck deep, for even she could not deny the strange change in her people. Since the human came, hope had returned. Children laughed again. Men walked taller. Women sang softly. The fire in their hearts had been reborn that night. The Queen approached the human directly. He was repairing a broken spear, his hand steady and patient. She stood before him and spoke with heavy pride. "Traveler, I must know the truth. What do you want from us? You saved my people, you refused my offer, but no being gives without reason. Tell me, what is it that you seek?" The human looked up slowly. His eyes met hers. Strong but not cruel, he said, "I want your people to survive. I want them to see the sun beyond this winter. I want them to rise again, not crawl in fear." "That is all?" The Queen's chest tightened. She had expected greed, demand, or hidden hunger, but his words carried only fire and burden. Still, her doubt did not vanish. She whispered, "And if I refuse your help? If I tell you to leave us forever?" The human's face did not change. "Then I will leave, but the storm will not. The hunters will not. The cold will not. I offer only one thing: choice. Whether you accept it is not mine to command." His words shook her more than any threat, for he had given her what no enemy, no raider, no king had ever given: freedom, the freedom to choose. That night, the Queen stood outside her hut. She looked at her daughter asleep near the fire, wrapped in a blanket that was not of this world. She looked at her people alive because of a stranger, and she knew her decision would shape not only their tomorrow but all the tomorrows to come. Her lips whispered into the cold wind, "Do I fear him, or do I trust him?" The human secret. The Queen could not sleep that night. Her thoughts circled like wolves in the dark. The human's words echoed in her mind. "I offer only one thing: choice, no king, no tribe." No enemy had ever spoken such words to her before. When the village slept, she walked to the hill where the human stood. He was staring at the stars, his figure sharp against the silver light. The snow crunched under her feet, but he did not turn. It was as if he had known she would come. She stopped beside him, her cloak pulled tight. For a moment neither spoke. Only the cold wind carried their silence. Finally the Queen said, "I have given my people many things, but never choice to survive. I demanded sacrifice, and yet you, a stranger, give without taking. Why?" "What are you truly?" The human lowered his weapon and looked at the endless sky. His voice was low, steady, almost sad. I am not only a traveler, I am a scout. I came to this world to see if it was ready. The queen's heart skipped. Ready? Ready for what? She asked, her voice trembling. The human's eyes glowed faintly in the starlight. Ready for my people, he said. Humans do not walk alone. When I came here, I was watched. My people above the clouds. Among the stars they see what I see. They wait for my word. The queen's breath froze in her chest. Above the clouds, among the stars? Her people had told stories of gods in the sky, of fire falling from heaven. But to hear it from his lips made her knees weaken. She whispered, then this was never chance. You came to test us. The human nodded slowly. Yes, to test if you are worth saving. To see if you can walk beside us. Or if you will fall like so many others. The queen's pride flared. And if I had forced my daughter on you? If I had chosen fear instead of trust? The human's eyes hardened. Then my report would have ended tonight. My people would have turned away, and you would have faced the cold and the hunters alone. Her heart pounded. The weight of her choices had never felt heavier. She looked at him with fear and respect. You hold our future in your hands, she said. But he shook his head. No. Your choices hold your future, I only watch. I only carry the truth to those who wait above. From the shadows. The daughter had followed, she heard every word. Her heart trembling with both fear and wonder, she stepped into the starlight, her voice breaking. Your people, they are watching us. Even now? The human turned to her gently. Yes, even now they see your fire, your fear, your hope. They see me standing here with you. Her eyes filled with tears. Then tell me, what do you see when you look at us? Do you see weakness? Do you see savages? Or do you see something worth saving? The human's gaze softened. I see more than weakness. I see hearts that still fight in the cold. I see a queen who would give everything for her people. I see a daughter who dares to question to me. That is worth saving. The queen's breath shook. His words carried both promise and warning. If humans returned, her world would change forever. Her people would no longer be alone, but would they rise? Or would they be swallowed by the fire of the stars? The human lifted his face to the sky once more. Soon they will ask me for my answer, and I will give it. But before I do, you must decide if you wish to walk into the future or cling to the past. The queen and her daughter stood in silence, the stars burned above, countless eyes watching, and in that silence, the truth became clear. This one night was not only about survival, it was a test, a choice, a door to something greater. A new dawn. The first light of dawn touched the frozen land. The village stood silent, wrapped in a strange peace after the storm. Children still slept under blankets that did not belong to this world. Fires still burned with fuel that would never run out so quickly, but every heart carried the same thought. The human would not stay. The queen stood outside her hut, her cloak heavy with frost. Her eyes followed the human as he prepared his bag. Every movement was calm, steady, without hesitation. It was the way of someone who had walked away from many places before. Her daughter rushed to him, her voice breaking with urgency. You cannot leave, not now, we need you. Her hand shook as she reached toward him. Her eyes begged for an answer that would keep him there. The human looked at her, his expression quiet but firm. I came to test, I came to see, and I have seen enough. Her lips trembled. But what if we fail without you? He placed a hand on her shoulder. Strong but gentle, then you will rise again. Because you are not weak, you only need to remember it. The queen stepped forward, her pride warring with her fear. Stranger, you saved us, but you also left us with questions. If your people return, what will they bring? Will they bring hope or chains? The human's eyes turned to the horizon where the sun broke through the clouds. That choice does not belong to us alone, it belongs to you. How you meet the future will decide what comes. The elders gathered behind her. Their voices full of doubt, one cried, if he leaves. We are nothing again, another said. If he stays, he may destroy us without meaning to. The whispers grew heavy in the cold morning air. The human raised his voice, not loud but clear. Fear is your oldest enemy. Fear makes you trade lives for blankets. Fear makes you bow to raiders. Fear makes you blind. I cannot kill that enemy for you, only you can. His words struck them like thunder. The villagers lowered their eyes. Ashamed and humbled for the first time, they realized their chains were not only in the hands of others, they were in their own hearts. The daughter's eyes filled with tears. "Will we see you again?" she whispered. The human gave a faint smile. "Humans always return, sometimes tomorrow, sometimes years. But we always return." He turned to leave. His figure cutting through the snow, the queen called after him, her voice trembling between command and plea. "Traveler, if you return, what will you ask of us?" He stopped, his back still turned. "Only that you rise. Only that you remember what it means to stand when the storm tries to break you." The wind carried his words like fire. The villagers felt them burn in their chests. They looked at their queen, their daughter, then at each other. And for the first time, they did not see only weakness, they saw a choice. The queen placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. She whispered, "Perhaps this is what it means to be human. Not blood, not weapons, but the power to choose." Her daughter's eyes glowed with hope. "Yes, mother, and if humans return, we will be ready. We must be." The sun climbed higher, painting the snow with gold. The human's figure grew smaller in the distance, but his presence did not fade. It remained in their hearts, in their fire, in their breath. A reminder that survival was not the end. It was the beginning, and so on that morning, the village stood on the edge of something greater. Fear still lived in their bones, but beside it now lived courage. The dawn was no longer just another day. It was the first step into a future where humans would return, and nothing would ever be the same again.